Gentlemen, 23rd.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the applicable provisions of House Rule 136 relating to privileges of the floor be suspended.
Gentlemen, for the 23rd, ask unanimous consent that the applicable provisions of Rule 136 be dispensed with so certain individuals can attend the ceremony on the floor. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Message from the clerk.
Message from the Senate by the clerk of the Senate announces the Senate has adopted without amendment House Concurrent Resolution 4, raising a joint assembly to hear an address by His Excellency the Governor.
That's to be received. Chair recognizes the doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, the West Virginia Board of Public Works. Mr. Speaker, Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court.
Chair recognizes the doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, Earl Ray Tomlin, President, and the members of the West Virginia Senate.
Chair recognizes the doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, Congressman Alan B. Mollahan.
The doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, U.S. Senator Jay Rockefeller.
Chair recognizes the doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, the special committee to wait upon His Excellency the Governor.
Ladies and cattle.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, We'd like to introduce the Governor of West Virginia with great honor, Your Excellency, Mr. Wise.
You're here. Oh, thank you, Mary. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much for being here. Chief Justice, nothing good. Thank you for your help.
You're bringing one this time, take you out the other.
Right. The Speaker, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Senate President Tomlin and I are honored to present to you the Governor of the great state of West Virginia, the Honorable Bob Wise.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Please, thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Board of Public Works, Justices of the Supreme Court of Appeals, members of the legislature, it's great to see Senator Rockefeller and Congressman Mollahan, distinguished guests, and my fellow West Virginians. Today was a great day for West Virginia as we welcomed President George W. Bush and joined him in recognizing the efforts of our men and women in the National Guard. Anytime that the President of the United States comes to West Virginia 3 weeks into his administration to honor our men and women who have now, for over 4 years, been leading the nation in readiness, that's a great day. Thank you, President Bush and West Virginia National Guard. One month ago, the people of West Virginia gave you and me both a privilege and a challenge. The privilege is to serve them. The challenge is to get West Virginia moving again. The people demand that we no longer accept the idea that West Virginia should take last place at the nation's table. They demand that we educate our children so that they can have better lives and take advantage of the job opportunities we will create. And at the same time, they demand that we teach by example and by word the values that have made this a great state and a great nation. They demand that we improve our health care and that we provide the means for each citizen to have access to health care. They demand that we make our economy stronger and that we participate fully in the new economy based on information and technology. And they demand that we protect the special places that make West Virginia what it is and preserve our water, our air, and our land for future generations to enjoy. They demand that we conduct the business of government in a way that reflects the trust given us, and we are good stewards of the taxes they pay. That we conduct the people's business with their best interests at mind, and that we treat citizens as the customers of government, not as its subjects. Our job is to apply the resources of this wonderful state to one mission, to secure a better future for our people. This will require investment. It will require hard decisions. And it will require that we apply the values that make West Virginia great. Hard work, fairness, honesty, and humility. West Virginia must keep its best and its brightest here at home and bring home the productive people who have left in recent years in search of economic opportunities they couldn't find here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be home. And I am very happy that our family is together in West Virginia, and it is with great happiness that I recognize my wife, Sandy Wise, sitting in the front row tonight with our children, Robert and Alexandra. And Sandy, I can't think of a better place for us to spend Valentine's night. It gives us great pleasure as a family to know that our children's future in West Virginia is bright, but it is our responsibility to make it far better. Getting West Virginia moving again will not be easy, my friends. Since taking office, I have instructed my department heads and staff to help me study the financial status of our state government. Ladies and gentlemen, the cupboard is bare. Despite the 3% budget cut which I was forced to impose on the first day of my term, we are looking at a state budget with minimal growth for this next year. We are paying the price for some reckless decisions by state government. We have about $9 million in unpaid phone bills, some of these 3 years old. There have been massive overcommitments on highway projects which we must now fund. The contingency fund that we need to keep in reserve for emergencies has been depleted, along with several other funds necessary for economic and community growth. We are now at what appears to be the waning days of the longest period of economic growth in our nation's recent history, and West Virginia has precious little to show for it. I am presenting you tonight with a budget that is in balance and that begins to make the investments we must make. It is a budget with no fat, no frills, and no nonsense. It is a budget that makes tough decisions, and it is a budget that says that the irresponsible practices that got us into this situation will not be tolerated again. In our budget, I will not ask you to increase the tax burden on business. With the exception of eliminating the tax loophole that exists for smokeless tobacco, I will not ask for any change in existing consumer taxes. Our people's tax burden is high enough already. So how do we move from here a tough budget in tough economic times to where we want to be. Our passport to prosperity is education, and education is the centerpiece of my agenda. Education is crucial to the future of our children and our state. Despite the state's financial condition, we must make some new investments in education. We cannot have economic development, we cannot fulfill other responsibilities without first making West Virginia truly the education state. My first priority is funding for the Promise Scholarship Program. This will provide each qualified student who works hard and plays by the rules with a scholarship at one of our state colleges or universities, or an equivalent scholarship to be used at a West Virginia private college, technical training center, or other accredited program. This legislature has already passed the basic legislation that created the promise. But there hasn't been any money funded to keep the promise. It has to happen. I'll tell you why. Very simply, West Virginia needs to build the kind of educated populace that is the key to participation in the new information-based economy. Talk, as I have, to the executives at the High-Tech Consortium in Fairmont. They will tell you finding the qualified and educated workforce is their greatest challenge. In order to do that, we must make our colleges, our universities, our technical training programs, our post-secondary education programs more accessible to our students. We need to change the expectation level of students and parents so that each child knows that by working hard, he or she can and will get the education and training needed for a good job. This is what Congressman Alan Mollahan founded the High-Tech Consortium on. This is what Senator Robert T. Byrd has worked so hard to bring. This is what Senator Jay Rockefeller has done his whole career in the Senate and as governor to bring those kind of jobs here. But what they can bring depends upon us having the workforce that can fill those opportunities. Now, back to the promise. Some argue that needs-based scholarships should get top priority. Guess what? I agree. That's why this budget, for the first time in the history of the state, includes an additional $6 million to provide a West Virginia higher education grant to every student who qualifies. That's right, every student who qualifies, 100%. So we took care of the higher education grant, but that's not enough. There are many West Virginia families just above the income limit who aren't eligible for assistance, yet have trouble paying for their children's higher education. The sons and daughters of the Boone County coal miner, the Martinsburg school teacher, the steel worker in Weirton, the Putnam County truck driver, the Clarksburg police officer need these dollars. If you work hard, you should be able to get some help to get the higher education. We've looked at every other state program that funds aid based on achievement. We've seen some tremendous successes. And we noted that there were some problems and some growing pains. West Virginia can and will learn from the experience of other states that have established such programs in their higher education systems. The voters of West Virginia last November elected a governor whose number one commitment was to make good on this promise. Every time I visit a school or meet with parents, they ask me if we're going to follow through. West Virginia students need this opportunity, and they need this incentive. It's time to quit talking and take action. The states we compete with are leaving us behind. So I am delivering to you today, as my first legislative priority, a budget which funds the Promise Scholarship for students in the fall of the year 2002. No student will be left behind. If you are qualified, you will get help from the state of West Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, a few years ago in this chamber and in the Senate chambers, you made a promise. Working together, we are going to keep the promise. But, this won't surprise you, that's not all. If students are going to make it in college, they will need to be prepared for college. Our top goal in this area is to reduce the number of students who are unprepared when they enter college. I have created by executive order today a statewide council on college preparation that will look at the entire system, from preschool through graduate school, and recommend the changes that will help all levels of education work together to benefit the students. A top quality educational system depends on all the education community, the school service personnel, the teachers, the principals, the administrators. Teachers are the heart of the educational system. All of us know a teacher who has made a difference in our lives. Tonight, I'd like you all to welcome a special guest, someone clearly recognized for clearly making a difference in her students' lives. Donna Ream of Lewisburg Elementary School, the West Virginia Teacher of the Year. Would you please stand, Ms. Ream? We must honor the work of our teachers. I've asked some of our business leaders to join me in that. And so tonight, I'm pleased to be joined by Greg Smith of Mountain State Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and David Copenhaver, Tammy Hamby, and Eric Sylvester of Toyota Motors. These two companies value education. They're creating good jobs that will employ well-educated people. Because they know how important education is, Mountain State Blue Cross and Blue Shield is awarding this West Virginia Teacher of the Year a check for $5,000. And some of you walking in past the Governor's Mansion may have noticed a brand new Toyota Avalon sedan parked next to the Governor's Mansion. It's not Sandy's and mine, but for the next year, Ms. Ream will have the use of that car, courtesy of Toyota, as a token of their appreciation for the work of all West Virginia teachers. And by the way, which I know Senator Rockefeller is very proud of, the 3 Toyota team members here tonight helped build that car's high-quality engine at Toyota's plant in Buffalo, West Virginia. I wish we could do the same for every hard-working teacher, school service worker, and principal. Unfortunately, when we began preparing this year's budget, the declining economic conditions forced us to consider granting no salary increases. But when we are asking for even more effort, I simply can't do that. Therefore, I propose to this legislature to increase the salary of every West Virginia elementary and secondary teacher by $1,000 and every school service worker's salary by $756, effective January the 1st, 2002. We will continue to help teachers who want to do better in the classroom. The education bill that I will bring before you tomorrow also adds an incentive for teachers to improve their teaching skills and achieve national certification. Each teacher who obtains this certificate, and it's not easy, ladies and gentlemen, to get the certificate, will get a salary increase totaling $2,500 per year. Now let me speak directly to our educators. This pay increase is not adequate for what we ask you to do. I know that. Several years ago, your salaries were raised to 30th in the nation. But we have been losing the momentum that brought you there. In just the past 4 years, you've fallen to below 40th place. I commit to you tonight a multi-year effort to begin moving you back up the national pay ladder. I cannot guarantee an exact amount for future years because nobody knows what this economy will do. We need to do more to keep the best and the brightest educators in our schools. And so, as we seek to move you back up the national pay ladder, I will also commit to working with you on a strategy to develop incentives to keep our experienced teachers in the classroom longer. I feel so strongly about this because of my personal experience recently as a parent. Our children, in the last few weeks, have both been involved in weekend academic competitions. It may have been a Saturday, but their teachers were there. Several teachers even came into school early, 3 days a week, or stayed after school late to coach their teams. There was no extra pay, and there was no financial reward. They are committed. And this commitment is in every school in our state. I would like to say to our principals, our teachers, our school service personnel, from Sandy and me, and on behalf of every parent in West Virginia, thank you for what you're doing for West Virginia. Now, our schools must also reflect and reinforce our deeply held values. We can do a good job of teaching the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but it's time to add 2 more, responsibility and respect. Character education begins with us parents. But we also believe it's important to add $750,000 in this budget to help teachers reinforce that lesson in character that children learn at home. We must also do more to ensure safety for everyone in our schools. I will guarantee that the toll-free school safety hotline operates statewide 24 hours a day. It has been, thanks to the Attorney General, Darryl McGraw. We're going to fund that fully at the state level for the first time. One thing we should do as we move towards becoming the education state is to create a state science camp modeled on West Virginia's very successful National Youth Science Camp. I intend to work with the legislature to make this happen. As we bring students from across the country to West Virginia to learn about science, let's bring the best in science from West Virginia to West Virginia to learn at the same time. We also must ensure that school personnel and students work in modern schools. We need to get education out of trailers and into classrooms. I will propose a bond package for capital improvements in public education. I served with pride in this legislature 20 years ago, and we balanced the budget. I served in the United States House of Representatives for 18 years, during which we changed the philosophy of the Congress for the discipline of a balanced budget. So I will not make proposals for new scholarship funds or new programs or pay raises without tying them directly to a source of revenue or to savings in other areas. We can fund these investments in our future and, at the same time, address an issue that troubles many West Virginia families by imposing for the first time restrictions and regulations on video gambling. You and I know that West Virginia is drowning in a sea of video poker machines, better known as gray machines. Some estimates I have seen tell us that there could be as many as 20 to 30,000 of these machines operating in our state. Our convenience stores and gas stations are becoming unlicensed casinos. Children wander past gambling on their way to the candy counter. And for years, the government of West Virginia has sat idly by and let this happen. Every attempt to regulate this industry has been stopped, sometimes by people who claim that regulating it would expand gambling. It'd sure be difficult to devise any way to expand gambling any more than what has happened in the past 4 years. It can't get any worse. This illegal industry, by some estimates, grosses as much as $500 million a year. The current situation, more than anything else, breeds disrespect for the law. When the state gives a wink and a nod to an industry that is clearly in violation of the laws, it sends a message that we are not serious about the laws we pass. If we expect to raise up a generation of West Virginians with the character to build a better society, we must set a better example. Whatever our personal views on gambling might be, it is crystal clear that the time has come to remove thousands of machines from businesses frequented by children and to stop the development of unlicensed gambling parlors. And to limit the number and location of new gambling machines together, we can do that. The bill I will introduce tomorrow will reduce, restrict, and regulate video gambling in West Virginia, and will do so by taking the following steps. The number of video gambling machines will be limited to 9,000 statewide. These machines will be prohibited in any part of a business open to young people, and there will be a limit of 5 machines at any one location. Operators will have to pass a strict criminal background check and have been state residents for at least 2 years. Anyone who operates an illegal gambling machine after January the 1st, 2002 will forfeit not only that machine, but any and all legal and illegal machines under their control. Does it have to be done? When you drive home this weekend, stop at a convenience store. Stop at a gas station. Stop at a number of the establishments that have sprung up. Talk to some of the people in state government that are out making a list and checking it twice right now on where those machines are. Talk to the lottery commissioner who told me about one facility today that went from 8 machines a couple of years ago to 100 today. My proposal will do something no one has done before in this state: reduce, restrict, and regulate the gray machines and provide a steady stream of revenue to finance the promise. And let me just say, we'll not just finance the Promise Scholarship with those revenues. We'll finance other educational efforts and the infrastructure necessary to build West Virginia. I appreciate those who say they oppose any expansion of gambling. So do I. But every year they stopped any regulation, they only made it possible for even more gambling. I look forward to working with you. But this must be the legislative session that finally acts to control these machines. So let's talk about economic development. If you want to take the temperature of our economy, I suggest you look at the license plates of the cars in our neighbors' driveways at Christmas time. You'll see their grown children's cars, their brothers' and sisters' cars, with Virginia and North Carolina and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Maryland license tags. All these people think of West Virginia as home. You know, home to a West Virginian is often as much a mental state as it is a physical or geographical one. And it is home because they come back whenever they can. They're here for the holidays. They're here for our college football games. Many plan to retire here, but they're making their living and contributing to the economies in our neighboring states. It does not have to be this way. Like the Bible tells us in Jeremiah, there is hope for you, saith the Lord, that your children shall come back to their own borders. At the end of my time of office, I want West Virginia to be a destination for ambitious people. I want our state to be a magnet for investment. I will be West Virginia's #1 salesman. I'm going to be on the road a lot, across the state, across the country, across the world if needed, spreading the word about our abundant power, our electricity, our coal, our gas, our timber, and our water. I'll spread the word about our open spaces and our clean air. But most of all, I will tell investors we have the one thing that cannot be mined, manufactured, or purchased. It's us. It's who we are. It's our people. We West Virginians, with our work ethic, our traditional values, our willingness to help each other out, we are the best source of our own future prosperity. The state must be an active partner in economic progress. As a candidate, I presented the people of West Virginia with a detailed economic plan. They endorsed it. Now we must put it into action. We must remove the barriers that stand in the way of businesses, large and small. We must move quickly when we have opportunities or when disaster looms to see that West Virginia is at the table when the deals are being struck. Economic uncertainty abounds in the steel industry, in the chemical industry, in coal and gas. And many West Virginians are worried, understandably, about their future. We can do better at anticipating change and in making West Virginia an attractive location for industry. I will create and chair the West Virginia Jobs SWAT team. It's not enough to respond when a shutdown notice is issued. By then, it's usually too late. State development officials must be monitoring and anticipating these situations well in advance. Our Jobs SWAT team will include the Director of the Development Office, the Secretary of Tax and Revenue, the Commissioners of Employment and Environmental Protection, and many others. We will also call on local and regional leaders and regional development groups like Advantage Valley to protect the jobs we have and attract new, high-quality jobs all over West Virginia. We don't have all the resources some other states may have, but we can work harder and smarter if we work together as a team. We need to work as a team to take advantage of a historic opportunity that is before us in the energy market. You know, in many people's eyes across the country, we're back. Because once every 15 years, when the country suddenly needs energy again, it turns to West Virginia and other energy-producing states saying, can you quickly shoot us another umpteen million megawatts? Our energy market is a traditional backbone of West Virginia's economy. But it's a different world now. We have the energy resources that the country needs, but we must work intelligently to harvest those resources and develop them in an environmentally appropriate way. I have established the Governor's Energy Advisory Task Force with the help of the National Energy Technology Laboratory in Morgantown and others to develop new strategies to make our coal, gas, electricity, and other power sources work for us in the long term. We're also going to continue to build roads in West Virginia. Our congressional delegation has worked overtime to secure funding, not only through T21, the federal highway legislation, but also to secure funding for Corridor H and Corridor D. And we will complete these roads and many others critical to our future. Let me just say, because we have had to make some hard decisions in the past month or so, let me just say, I spent almost 20 years as a ranking member on the Transportation Committee of the United States House of Representatives. I know about roads. I know how to get the money for roads. I know how to build roads, and I know how to get the asphalt out, and we will in West Virginia for the good of our community. The legislature has already authorized the issuance of $440 million in road bonds. Unfortunately, the previous administration overspent this authorization by $33 million. So in order to meet those obligations, I'm going to have to ask you today for authorization to issue the final $110 million in road bonds that have already been approved by the voters. After meeting our existing obligations, the balance of this road fund will be used for the first time to match the greatest number of federal dollars, $4 to $1. But we have to be willing to keep our effort going too. And so obviously, to keep our road building plans moving, I will ask you to renew the 5-cent per gallon gas tax. This is not a new tax. It simply continues an existing tax, and that $55 million is necessary to keep our road program going. Not a new tax. I ask you for some important economic development legislation this year. The long-awaited reform of the West Virginia Capital Company Act. The legislature created this act to stimulate new businesses, but many well-established companies that could have obtained funding in the traditional marketplace have tapped this fund and tapped West Virginia taxpayers. This has gone on too long. The bill before you will restrict this money to creating new jobs and new opportunities. I am also asking you to pass legislation to create a sunny day fund so that when a company is at the point of making an investment decision that will create jobs in West Virginia, the state can immediately come in and put some financial muscle into the negotiating process. And I will conduct, before the next regular session of this legislature, a complete top-to-bottom review of the various tax incentives that have been developed for business over the past several decades. We need to see which ones work and strengthen them. We need to see if any are ineffective and direct those resources elsewhere. And we need to study the tax incentives available in other states and countries even and see where we can be more competitive. We will remove obstacles in state government to business startups. Through cooperation among state agencies, we will provide one-stop shopping available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the Internet to entrepreneurs who want to do business in West Virginia. Most new businesses are started by people who already have a day job and can't afford to take time off or to stand in long lines at state offices. I am also ordering a review of the state's regulatory rules and practices. Regulation is important and can be a shield against unfair practices if it is effective and not burdensome. West Virginia cannot allow outdated regulatory practices, though, to slow down our economic growth. Since this is a legislature that enthusiastically passed NASCAR license plates, you're going to like this one. I've established by executive order the West Virginia Motorsports Council to begin to capture much more of the motorsports revenue that originates in this state. And along those lines, I have also created a Film Development Council to dramatically step up the effort to bring more motion picture industry jobs to West Virginia. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of watching new movies about West Virginia that are filmed in other states. We're going to be in the driver's seat and in the movies, folks. We must also recognize that tourism has become an irreplaceable part of our economy. I love to bring business leaders to West Virginia for rafting trips or for a ski trip or to a ski resort or to one of our state parks. They fall in love with West Virginia, and once you get them in the door, they want to move here. For thousands of people up and down the East Coast and increasingly around the world, West Virginia is becoming a top tourist destination. I have included in the budget an improvement package to make critically needed investments in our state parks. And we will find the funds to continue the development of the Hatfield-McCoy Trail. West Virginia's congressional delegation has pledged to continue to work with us to get our economy moving again. Senator Jay Rockefeller, Senator Robert C. Byrd, Congressman Alan Mollahan, Congresswoman Shelley Moore Capito, Congressman Nick Joe Rahal, all have made it clear to me that they consider economic development as their top priority. My priority in working with our delegation in Washington, or one of our priorities, will be to stop the destruction of the steel industry by illegal imports. West Virginia's steel industry in the northern panhandle has developed efficient processes and adapted to the new international marketplace. But it can't survive against an onslaught of subsidized and underpriced steel from abroad. This country must have a strong and vibrant steel industry to remain an industrial power, and West Virginia will be a part of it. I have already met with the top executives and union leadership of the Wheeling-Pittsburgh Steel and Weirton Steel. The state will work closely with them to keep them strong. And as our congressional delegation fights unfair foreign steel, we can join that battle too. You know, because it's not just steel. If it's steel today, it'll be aluminum tomorrow. It'll be chemicals the day after that, and then ferroalloys, and then other products. You've got to stop it now. And so one step we can take immediately to preserve steel jobs is to require the use of U.S.-made steel in West Virginia state-funded projects. I have prepared a bill to do that. I have prepared a bill to do that. I respectfully urge you to take up this legislation at the start of business tomorrow, move it through both houses of this legislature in record time, and I want to promise you it will be signed in record time when it hits my desk. We're in this fight, and we're in it to win for West Virginia. Let's talk about health care, because we must improve the health of our people. This legislature has acted wisely in establishing a Children's Health Insurance Program, better known as CHIP, C-H-I-P, to help the uninsured children of working families. But this program has yet to reach many eligible children. Immediately after my administration began, we signed a contract with the state's primary care clinics to promote CHIP in doctors' offices and other health care settings. We will do even more to get that word out. Just this weekend, one of West Virginia's true, wonderful people and native stars, Kathy Mattea, taped a public service announcement urging parents to call and sign their children up for health care. That will soon be broadcast across the state of West Virginia. Let's thank Kathy Mattea and others like her. For reaching out and getting the word to the children that need to know. I have included $1.5 million in the budget to cover additional children. And we will work aggressively and cut through red tape to make sure that every child in West Virginia has access to coverage, whether under CHIP, Medicaid, or private insurance. Every child, that's my goal. We have a patient Bill of Rights law, or so they say, in West Virginia. The patients will tell you it doesn't grant them very many rights. I want to fix that. I will present for your consideration a new patient Bill of Rights, which includes a fast, impartial grievance procedure for disputes, independent reviews of coverage denials, and the right to sue an HMO for negligence that results in harm to a patient. Senior citizens, the chronically ill, and our state health budget are all being battered by rising drug prices. Upon taking office, I summoned to the Capitol the representatives of the nation's largest drug manufacturers to meet with our state agencies that deal with prescription drugs. We now have a strategy to contain these costs. We're going to create a pharmacy benefit program for our poor senior citizens. We're going to expand the discount program for seniors above the poverty level. We're developing a drug benefit plan that could be an add-on for people on Medicare and employer-based insurance. And we're going to pool the buying power of all the state agencies that purchase medicine and use that to drive a harder bargain with the drug companies. And while we're talking about health, I'm going to ask you to close the tax loophole that exempts smokeless tobacco from the same excise tax we have on cigarettes. Smokeless tobacco is sold to young people, to young West Virginians at an alarming rate. Go into any school and see how many, count the pockets with the round can right there. Those are our children. We have the highest consumption levels of this product in the country. This is a dangerous situation, particularly for our children. And raising the price of smokeless tobacco is a sure way to reduce its use by those people we care so much about. It's also important to remember the health care that we owe our veterans. And that's why I support not only building a veterans nursing home, but speeding up the schedule for funding this home so that we can serve our aging veterans as they have served us. I have also prepared for your consideration a bill to lower the blood alcohol standard for impaired driving to 0.08%. This is not only a public health and safety issue, but an economic one, because it brings us into compliance with the federal standard and avoids the loss of highway funds that are contingent upon taking this action. Public employees deserve a stable, dependable health system too. I am determined to keep the Public Employees Insurance Agency solvent. I am also proposing a measure to contain costs for agencies and for employees in our public employees insurance system. We will improve service to employees and move to more efficient processes. The bill I will offer to you does not harm the benefit plans of any current employee, but will eliminate, for people hired on or after July 1 of this year, the option to trade unused sick leave for months or years of health coverage after retirement. We will be conducting, as I have said consistently, a total review of TEIA. All items will be on the table. All stakeholders will be at the table. But we have to start somewhere, and this is a good place to start. Let me take a moment to talk about another challenge our state faces: how to achieve balance between developing our economy and protecting our environment. We will have a strong economy. We will continue to mine coal, to produce electricity, to manufacture high-quality goods, and to create high-technology jobs. It was the prevailing wisdom in the last century and in previous generations that economic growth carried the price of economic sacrifice. We in West Virginia often divided ourselves into two camps: energy on one side, environment on the other. In so doing, we lost sight of a basic truth. We all share the future of West Virginia together. It is my goal to put behind us the era of divisiveness on the issue of West Virginia's environment. All of us who love West Virginia, whether we work at a desk or in a coal mine, in a school or a factory, love our hills, our rivers, our woods, and our valleys. We must preserve them for our children and their children. We can have a clean environment, and we can have good-paying jobs. and there must be no higher economic development priority. Therefore, I ask you to elevate the Director of the Division of Environmental Protection to the post of Secretary and add this official to the Governor's Cabinet to emphasize the importance of environmental protection to this government and to our people. Director Callahan, you've only been on the job 2 days and we're already making you a secretary. Way to go. Every action DEP takes affects our environment and our economy. We can move beyond confrontation, and we will. We will strictly enforce state and federal laws for the protection of the environment in the mining industry so that citizens will know that the excesses of the past will not return. And we will work with all sides to have a reliable, uniform, and predictable permit process. We will protect the places West Virginians hold dear. We cannot afford to have our national treasures, like the Blackwater Canyon, slip out of our hands. I will, in the near future, announce a land conservation plan for West Virginia that respects both the private landowner and the public interest. We do not do this simply out of nostalgia or emotion. It's an economic investment as well. One of the treasures we have in West Virginia that is increasingly rare in this country is the opportunity to enjoy the great outdoors just a few miles from the center of our cities. Access to these lands is a prime drawing card for the high-paying jobs of the new economy, not tied to a single place by access to ports, railways, or raw materials. With high-speed access to the Internet, many information jobs can be located anywhere. We want them here. One of the best-selling points for West Virginia, and the reason so many of our people wish they could come home, is our low crime rate. This has always been one of the safest places in America. This, too, is a reflection of our values. Respect for each other, respect for God, respect for the law, and rejection of violence. But there are some who do not respect these values. Our state, county, and local police, and our correctional officers guard us against crime. I had the sad duty, a few days ago, of traveling to Berkeley County to meet with the family, friends, and fellow officers of Deputy Sheriff John Lewis Burkett III, who was killed in the line of duty transporting a prisoner from Pennsylvania back to West Virginia. He was the third brave officer to fall in the line of duty since this legislature last met in regular session. In June, Morgantown police officer Frank Fedasso was killed in a training accident. And again in September, Nicholas County Sheriff's Deputy William Giacomo was shot and killed. Their deaths are a reminder of the price that the men and women of our law enforcement agencies are willing to pay for our safety. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you join me in a moment of silence to honor these officers and all those who have paid the ultimate price in our defense. Although we value their work, those who guard us against crime are paid far less than in our surrounding states. This is particularly true in our correctional system. After completing the required training, the starting salary for a correctional officer is about $18,000. Severely understaffed and overworked, our correctional officers are spending long days in close quarters with dangerous and unpredictable criminals. I ask you to begin remedying this injustice, to pass legislation that will provide a $2,000 annual raise for correctional officers. Our state police, too, are not adequately paid in accordance with the burden they carry. and we are unable, in this tight budget year, to give them all they deserve. But I have set aside $1.5 million in the budget to offer an adjustment in the trooper longevity schedule that will reward our troopers for remaining on the job. It will be a down payment, I hope, on a salary plan that will encourage young troopers to attend the State Police Training Academy and for our senior officers to continue providing their much-needed experience. We will remain a safe state for families and for businesses, and friends, this is one reason that I'm very glad to be home and all of us to have our families here in West Virginia because of our law enforcement personnel that guard us so well. There are many others who work hard for West Virginia. Our state government is made up of hard-working, competent, and dedicated people. I have visited many of the departments of state government since taking office, and I am constantly impressed by the people who serve us in those departments. I am proposing tonight a $756 annual increase in salaries for all state employees effective January the 1st, 2002. Once again, this is not adequate for what they do. Unfortunately, it is all our state can afford. From the citizen's point of view, our government does not always look as good from the outside as it does from the inside. Our policies and processes of government are often confusing and contradictory. We make it difficult to do simple things. Business people have learned that the marketplace no longer tolerates poor service. The economic battlefield is littered with the corpses of once proud companies that did not make the transition from a product-based marketplace to a service-based marketplace. Our state government must adopt a customer service mentality from top to bottom to meet the needs of all of its citizens. Our citizens need 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service from government. Companies like Amazon.com, which are creating new jobs in West Virginia, have shown that people can and will make transactions around the clock. I was shopping for a Christmas present on the Internet at Christmas Eve. That shows you how desperate I was. If we can buy books and CDs at 10 p.m., why can't we buy hunting and fishing licenses, reserve a cabin in a state park, apply for a license plate, renew our driver's permit, apply for a business permit, or check the status of our tax return? I have directed my Office of Technology to launch an e-government initiative. We will identify, from the consumer's perspective, the government services that can most easily be carried out online. If you're a customer of a state agency, write to me or send me an email and tell me how we can serve you better. Because of what we have discovered in the last month about how West Virginia government has sometimes operated, I am presenting you with a bill to create within the Governor's office an Office of Internal Audit and Risk Assessment. For too long, problems that developed in the administration of state government were allowed to fester until they became unmanageable. We have lost millions of dollars in correcting old mistakes, paying bills that were forgotten, and otherwise cleaning up messes that easily could have been avoided. West Virginians need and expect better service from government. They deserve it, and they will get it from this administration. I am honored to serve West Virginia. I pledge to get us moving in the right direction. We must make some strategic investments. We must set aside our conflicts to shape our future together. We must create opportunities for our children. Tonight, as is customary, I present my budget to this legislature. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker. But these are extraordinary times. So tonight I take the extraordinary step of submitting not just the budget, but also all of the bills that are required to take the action I have proposed. Now, we've worked hard to get these ready in the 30 days I've been in office. We'll work twice as hard with you to get them enacted in the next 60 days. I ask your help and your prayers as we set about to make this great state a better place for all of its citizens. Every West Virginian senses at some time in evident truth God walks among these West Virginia hills. From the smoky mist arising from every hollow to the deer raising her head from a mountain rivulet, to neighbors that gather around in times of hardship or grief or joy, West Virginia is a special place. There are times in special places we can rest and rejoice in what we have. And there are times we are called to rise to the challenges. My friends, you and I know that this legislative session summons us to great effort. Our challenges are great, but our opportunities are boundless. Working together, we will answer that call. Thank you, and good night, and God bless the state of West Virginia. Mr. President. Great job. Thank you, Governor. See you tomorrow. Congratulations. We're well prepared. We're ready. We laid it out. Gave you the bill. I know you did. You can make a few changes, but okay. We'll be out 8 o'clock in the morning. Gotta work with you. We'll get it done. Good job. Good job. Great job. Great job. Ron, good man.